Hey, everybody, welcome back. This is Zach Husted with Leaders Lead. I have Jon Myers here with us tonight. Man, he's got so many cool stories. Um, I hope that this series of podcasts go back and everyone's like, we got to have him back to tell more stories because they're pretty cool. And in between the series, I'm getting a little sneak peek of some other stuff, and there's a lot of rich content. We might have to do some outtakes on this, but hey, Jon, thanks for being here. And you want to do just a brief introduction for people that are maybe just checking in on this one?
Sure. I'm Jon Myers. I am a candidate for Congress in Virginia for the 7th District. I was a Marine for 28 years, 14th generation Virginian. Um, Live in Virginia with my wife and my son, and I have two daughters in college in Virginia. And I've been involved in some of the most high profile missions that the Marine Corps has, I could say, the United States has done for the last 30 years, to include rescue of Scott O'Grady from Bosnia. Um, I was the Marine who had the Marines that were supposed to go into Benghazi, but were told to stand down, as well as the evacuation of Afghanistan as a retired Marine. So I've had a lot of unique experiences.
Man, I you know first off, thank you for your service. I said it every time. I'm going to say it again. I mean it. I'm not one of those passerbys that just say thanks. I mean it. Um, you can see from the stuff behind me.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and I'm proud of my service and I'm proud of your service.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Um, so Jon and I met. So I'm gonna tell a little story, Jon, before we get into this. Um, so we have a mutual friend who happens to be an intelligence officer in the Marine Corps too. And for those of you that say intelligence officers or the Marine Corps is an oxymoron, I'll tell you what, there are some bright dudes, some of the smartest dudes I've ever actually met. And um, he introduced me to Jon, and um, it was around the time that the U.S. was pulling out of Afghanistan, and it just right before that, and we were like chatting it up, and he's in a foreign country, and he's like, "Dude, you got to meet my buddy. He just wrote this book," um, and then the evacuation of Afghanistan happened, and I saw Jon posted this thing about how he's helping get people out, and I'm like, "Dude, how are you doing that?" And like, I'm trying to get a hold of Jon. Um, Jon's like, dude, leave me alone. I got like 85 phones going on. My like hair's on fire. I haven't slept in like 4 days.
Sorry about that.
What do you want? If it's not important, leave me alone. I'm like, how can I help? And I'm like trying to like figure this out with him. And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to help. And he's like, get out of my way. And so for those of you who know me, I'm a helper. And I just want to help. And Jon's like, God, I don't even know this guy. And there's probably a lot of you out there that I'm just starting to meet that are like, yeah, that sounds about right. And anyway, that's how we started, to form this relationship. And it was over this Afghan refugee family called Supermom. That was her nickname. And I think this is the episode that we tell the journey of Supermom.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I think that finding a purpose, that's what this one's about. I just got goosebumps. Yep, this is right. Um,
Yeah.
I think this is the Supermom episode.
Sure.
You want to talk about what Supermom went through and how that kind of came about, with the details that are like that you can share, and then I'll share kind of how I came about with the Supermom from my side.
Yeah. Sure. So, first of all, I want to apologize. Yeah, I remember during the Afghanistan evacuation, it was like 9 or 10 days that I didn't really sleep. I took some cat naps, and it was after about the 10th day that I slept for 6 hours, and I just had to check out. I couldn't take it anymore. But during that time, like you said, there were people who would contact me, and I had foregone all courtesies, and it was like within the first
Yeah.
30 seconds, if I figured out they didn't have anything to offer me, I was just like, I got to move on. Sorry, and
Yep.
because a lot of people were trying to help, but sometimes they could just slow you down, because
You
I
don't need
hadn't
to
planned.
apologize.
There was other people, that did that too as well. That I still feel bad, but it was so hectic, and I was pulled into it. I was driving down the road in Germany, and a friend of mine, a Marine colonel, called and said, um, "Can you help me to get my translator out?" He's also the karate champion of Afghanistan. Oh, by the way, and his family. And the only reason he had called me was because he remembered that I had one time worked at the State Department in my
Mm.
when I was not in uniform. One time I had worked at the State Department. He was just throwing caution to the wind and just calling whoever he could scramble. He's like, I remember that Jon worked at State Department. I'm going to call him. And he called me and said, is there anybody at State you can talk to? And I hadn't worked there in a long time. But by some fate or God's hand, it just happens that that day or the day before, a friend of mine had messaged me, who was a Marine that was down there in Afghanistan, and had said, do you know, if you hear of anybody that needs to be evacuated, please send their name, because the State Department has not prepared. We don't know who to evacuate. We don't have a list. The State Department's given us nothing. So if you hear anybody, and then at the same time, a friend of mine who was managing flights in and out of Afghanistan, C-17s, had sent me a similar message. So it was almost like fate. So when my buddy, the colonel, sent me that info, I pulled over on the side of the road and I said, you know what? I think I actually can help you. And so I sent a message to the Marine. I said, here's the people we need to get out. We devised a plan where they went up to the massive, Abbey Gate was overrun with thousands and thousands of people, but we devised a plan where he would carry a purple umbrella and deploy the umbrella so that the Marines could spot him and his family. And then the Marines went out and pulled him in, you know, and it was successful. And, that was, I was kind of like, wow, I can't believe that we just did that. How did we do that? I can't even believe that just happened. And but then word got out that we managed to do that, and that I knew I had connections in there. So then my phone just started blowing up. Americans, mostly Marines, wanted their interpreters, wanted their fiance, wanted their whatever, and then it went beyond the Marines. It went to the Army, it went to the Air Force, and then I was helping every service, and then it was civilians, and then it was. I think we brought some people out there to you guys. I remember our common friend was sponsoring a family that we got out, and celebrities and news people, and it really got crazy out of control. But the one story you're talking about, Supermom, we called her Supermom because she was 9 months pregnant. 9 months.
Time out. Like, let's 9 months pregnant. Let's put this into perspective. Kabul is deteriorating.
Yes, it's a disaster.
Like, chaos.
Yeah,
And
total
like, I want
disaster.
people to like just pause and reflect on that.
Yeah.
9 months pregnant. Kabul's chaos.
Mm-hmm. Kabul's uh, chaos. The airport is completely impenetrable. She's 9 months pregnant. She has a toddler as well. Her husband's an American who's in Texas, and he's just freaking out. And I don't even remember how we got her name. Somebody called us and said, help this guy's wife. He's an American. And so we just started working on it. Really, what I remember is the details that we made 9 attempts to get her out over the course of a week plus. And this woman was carrying a toddler in the heat through all the crowds. She got attacked. She was near the bombing. She was stepping over dead bodies. She um, had several breakdowns because we'd have her moving around for 12 hours. Try this gate, try this gate. There's a Marine over here who's looking for you. There's a person here. One time we got her into the wall, over the wall, and we were celebrating and we thought this is the greatest day ever. And then some State Department person kicked her out because her paperwork wasn't proper, even though she was an American. And that's when my teammate, who another Marine I was working with, when she had her breakdown. We all had a breakdown at one point or another, and that's when she had hers, when Supermom got kicked out. And then we continued to try different plans, and one plan that she was on was a plan that took 26 hours sitting on a bus, and a large bribe paid to the Taliban to let the bus through. And then again, the State Department turned them away. And it was a bus full of pregnant women and disabled kids and American citizens. And some State Department person turned them away, and they had to be dumped on the side of the road. And that's when I had my breakdown, you know, combination of physical exhaustion and hunger and stress and no sleep and fighting our own government, Biden administration and Blinken, you know, calling my house and threatening me with legal action and if I didn't stop, and which I didn't stop, of course, because it was American citizens. And yeah, so 9 attempts. She got injured one time on some barbed wire. She quit and didn't want to come out of
Pregnant.
her house. Yeah, pregnant. She quit at one point, didn't want to come out of her house. We had to convince her over the phone. And so, you know, finally, after a couple of weeks, we got her on an airplane with her toddler where she was reunited. And my teammate actually took them into her home, and then they resettled in Texas. But so the reason Supermom became so popular was I was sort of live streaming our efforts and attempts, not for self-aggrandizement or to make myself look awesome. It was to put pressure on the State Department, because every time I would post these updates about Supermom or stuff we were doing, you know, it would be shared thousands and thousands and thousands of times. And people would call the State Department and pressure them and say, you need to get her out, and what's going on over there. And that's one of the reasons they started threatening me with legal action. And eventually,
That's
actually,
just crazy.
the State Department blocked me. I couldn't email or call the State Department. After I tracked down the ambassador to Pakistan, I got his personal cell phone number and called him at dinner, demanding that he let some American citizens into the embassy in Pakistan. So after that, they blocked me completely.
Man. And so how I come into this and this amazing miracle of coincidences for you is I learned of this, and um you and I had talked, and by the way, your curtness to me was nothing to be ashamed of. Like, I understand of the moment of like in the moment, being in the moment and fully engulfed in the moment. um you're like, man, these people are going to come here and they have nothing, right? And so I helped rally some stuff from people in my community. We have a young community that we live in, and there's a ton of like kids clothes and things that we were able to get, books and um, some furniture that we could ship, and then we rallied some money, right? And the crazy thing about this, I just got goosebumps again, of this story, is it ended up getting delivered on Christmas Day to their house.
Oh, nice.
You remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And like, what a like, hey, welcome. And um yeah, man, I was super proud of that, of like how my community came together for these people that we've never met. We don't know where they're at, who they are, to help solve this. People showed up and don't have anything.
Mm-hmm.
And through the efforts of that, you and your team and all these people did against the odds to like go out of their way to, you know, say welcome. And it wasn't insignificant what we helped them with either. I mean, like, they they were good for a bit, and that was rad, and I was pretty excited about that. Like, I don't didn't it wasn't like a, oh, let's go hang on top of a tower and scream about it, but man, it was like, that's one of those moments that you're like, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, on your issue, you wanted to talk about finding a sense of purpose. Um,
Yeah.
I would say at the time that that happened, um, you know, I just retired from the Marine Corps and we went to Germany, and now I was a dependent, and I was kind of envisioning this nice, relaxing time when I could travel and sit at the cafe and do what I wanted instead of having Marine generals tell me what to do. And we arrived just as COVID started. So, and Germany was the worst place in the world to be for COVID because it was complete lockdown. We were basically
Mm.
prisoners in our house. And I spent a long time. We were locked up for about a year and a half, and I spent many, many months, first of all, second guessing why we did this. It was the worst decision we ever made to come here. And then, what is my purpose now? Is this my purpose? Like, I'm finished with the Marine Corps and I did all this weird, kind of amazing stuff. And why did I do that? Like, why did that happen to me? You know, why was I here for this mission in Bosnia? Why was I here for this mission in Benghazi? You know, out of all these Marines and all these people, why was I the one? Like, it
Yeah.
feels like it's building up to something, and then when it just nothing, you just go into this nothingness where I'm doing nothing and nobody's calling, and I'm, you know, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing now. And then all of a sudden, one day I'm driving down the road and somebody calls me to ask for help, and this becomes my purpose. You know, for the next 3 months, my whole purpose is saving people out of Afghanistan that were going to be executed by the Taliban, or American citizens that were possibly going to be taken prisoner like they are right now by Hamas. You know, that was what we envisioned
Yep.
happening, which is why there was such urgency. And boy, you talk about going from zero to having real purpose. The purpose was saving lives, you know,
Yeah.
and so you just never, you just stick with it, and you never know, you know, where your sense of where you're going to find purpose. It could be a church, it could be um, you know, in serving your country, it could be in helping other people like we did, you and I and others in Afghanistan, you know. And now, and sort of after that happened and I came back to the States, it was like, what's my next purpose? And I've determined
Yeah.
that it's, you know, running for Congress in Virginia to try and return our country back to sanity, you know, from the condition it's in now.
Yeah.
It's just a
Man,
constant search.
yeah. You know, I think you just stole my question from me.
I did.
Uh, that well done. That was, see what you did there. You're a smooth operator.
Yeah.
Um, that um, yeah, I think finding purpose is really something that's hard, especially when you transition out of the military, right? You get into these, you're part of this ecosystem that just churns,
Yeah.
right? And you're an element of a machine. Like, for as much as people don't want to think of it that way, you go, you insert into a cog, and like the machine turns and you do your function and the machine just goes. Um, and then you leave and someone else just fits in because that's like how it's built. And you're part of that ecosystem. And then like when you get out, you're like, now what? And regardless of what your role is in the military, um, you lose a big part of your identity. And I think I kudos to you for getting that phone call of the day on the side of Germany and acting on it, because the amount of lives that you impacted from that, like those people don't even know that it was you. Some of them may never know,
That's true.
and that's okay.
That's fine.
But it gave you the purpose, right? And I'm proud of you,
Thank you.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
man, that's rad.
And you helped. So
So, well, you know, it's kind of like this much out of like, I can't, my hands probably, I don't know how far the screen goes, but um, I did. My buddy, if he was watching this, he's a farmer, and I somehow I always show up at his house as he's like at the tail end of a project. And like one time I showed up and he was like hanging a panel on the side of his house. I'm like, hey, dude, you want me to help? And he's like, yeah. And then I help him like do the last couple things. And then one time I show up and he's like paneling the inside of his garage and hanging tin. And I'm like, you want me to help? He's like, yeah. I'm like, and so the next time I came over, he had a whole bunch of buddies over there drinking beer. And he goes, I'm like, dude, do you know that I've like helped him build his whole house?
the
And
whole
they're like,
thing.
what do you mean? And I'm like, oh, I've done that. I've done this. And he's like, oh my gosh. So anyway, no, I exaggerate that, but I just did a small thing to help one sliver of it. Um, I would have done more if I could, but it is what it is. But what we're here doing today is we're sharing the story, the experience. Um, we're giving it a platform so people can hear it, see it, listen to it, and hopefully they get some traction. So, Hey, John, what can we do to lift you up, man? What can we do to continue to support you? How can we be um, an extension of you through this podcast?
Well, I'm running for office,
Yeah, man.
so
Is that a secret?
feel free to go to my webpage,
Yeah,
myersforvirginia.com.
yeah,
Read my issues, send me a note, call me, let me know how you can help, how I can help you.
yeah.
Yep.
And even if you don't live in Virginia, go check it out. You might know someone who does.
Yeah,
Let them know what you think of his platform and issues, regardless.
absolutely.
Um, yeah, just give them a thumbs up, thumbs down. Um, I'm curious to know where the reach goes for this, and I also encourage you to read this book right here. It talks about some of the stories that we talked about tonight and on the other episodes. It um, it's awesome. You're supporting a veteran by buying it. It's a good read. It's got good content, and John's a good dude.
Thank you.
So that's three goods. So give it a shout. Give it a
It has a few
chance.
bad words
Hey,
though.
we're gonna. What's that?
It has a few bad words, so not too many.
You crack me up, man. Crack me up. Um, hey, thanks for sticking with us on episode number 4 out of episode number 5, John. We'll be back for the last one here um, coming up soon. But everybody, thanks for sticking with us. We're hoping you're enjoying the content. It's real, it's authentic, um, and you're not going to get a better, more authentic dude and a better hearted guy than John. So thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you.